earlier than expected and walked in on me. As revenge, he literally went for my sister. How could he do this to me? I know I was the one who was wrong first, and I went outside my marriage, committed adultery, and broke the vows that I had made. But how can he just go for someone close to me, the very sensitive part of me? I still think they actually had been checking each other behind my back. I mean, how can a person that I trust so much betray me like this and break the girl code? I hate how the revenge that he did somehow cost me a family member, a very close family member. How could they? I won't even blame my husband, only because even the person that I trusted with my life actually played a role in plotting a revenge against me. I don't know what I have done to her to do this to me. I'm still in disbelief that I would actually be in this kind of situation with both my husband and my blood sister. Let me tell you a bit of what really happened. I really need advice and no judgments. I'm going through the most already. I am judging and blaming myself already, that I was the one who started the whole thing because of dissatisfaction and desires of someone different outside my marriage. If someone was to ask me why I went outside my marriage to destroy it, I won't be able to give any answers because I also don't know why I went outside my marriage. My husband, Marcus Hall, male 33, and I, female 32, first met at some university, name withheld because of the university's security protocol. He was a lecturer for business studies while I was going to start working as a science lecturer. Before my first class, the campus chancellor had asked Marcus to take me on a campus tour. He showed me around, and I enjoyed the tour with him. He even showed me where the science classes were usually held. He became the only person I was used to. Well, I can say that we became friends that day. We used to have lunch together. I enjoyed having him as a friend. He was a very good listener. He was the best friend I could ever ask for. We would sometimes travel to other cities, like a road trip type of thing, when we are free or during weekends because we were not working. It was really fun. Marcus was a very adventurous person. I still don't understand why he chose to teach business studies instead of maybe travel and tourism, because he loved traveling. Our friendship went on for like several months, maybe 6 or 7 months. I don't really remember well. But it took him months to propose to me to be his official girlfriend, though we agreed to keep it professional at work since it was forbidden to date another employee or any worker of the university. He confessed his love for me, of which he did it while shaking because he was scared that maybe I will reject him. But the girl was also feeling the guy, so I agreed to be his girlfriend. 1 year later, we got married, and it was the happiest day of our lives. We had saved money to go to Madagascar for our honeymoon, and I was so ecstatic. Our love was so amazing. Well, love is amazing if you are with the right person. I don't know what really happened that made me have such desires and eventually went outside my marriage to jeopardize my relationship with Marcus. I love Marcus, and funny enough, I still do. But the damage is great to even try and fix things with him. The first few years were very good to us. Some would say we were on a honeymoon phase, but we were just high in each other's love. We still continued working together, but he had been promoted to become an associate professor. I was so proud of him. He had always wanted to be a professor, not just a lecturer. Our marriage was blissful and fruitful. I loved the fact that we were able to communicate with anything and everything with each other. And that is what kept our love strong and consistent. Marcus is a man with discipline. He doesn't take tea from nobody, but he liked being right all the time. He liked being the last man standing whenever we got into an argument or misunderstanding. That was one thing I couldn't and would never understand with him. He is someone with rage when he is provoked, and he likes avenging himself. When I asked him what had happened to his parents, he would always say he didn't want to talk about it, but you could see that there's something big that he was hiding. The way my relationship or marriage with Marcus was, one would swear that we were lovers because we would act like we were siblings or best friends. So one day I was moved. Well, I had asked to be moved from the university in Liverpool to another university, not far from where we were staying in Leeds. It was too much traveling for me since it took like 1 hour and some minutes to reach Liverpool from Leeds. Well, I had chosen to buy a house with my husband in Leeds because it was closer to my family home, meaning I would sometimes go and visit them whenever I feel like missing them. My family was not a big family, but we loved each other. We didn't have much. We had an average standard of living, but we respected and valued each other no matter what. My Nana had taught us to value and respect one another in the family. Well, since I had no parents, so my younger sister Mercy, female, 28, and myself were raised by our Nana along with Granddad and our cousins. We were a united family, and we had vowed to never cross one another's line. My sister and I had a sister code that vowed to never look or feel some type of way with another's boyfriends or lovers. We had made a vow to never even become close with another person's man or invade another person's territory, but I guess my sister forgot all that. So time passed. Marcus was still working in Liverpool, so he would travel every day to get to work and come back later. So one day he had gone to work and didn't come back home later on, which somehow raised an eyebrow because if something like that would happen, he used to call. But that day he never called. His going to work and not coming back home went on and on till I saw that there must be something wrong, and I knew that I had to address the issue since it had started to affect our intimate moments. Days passed. I decided to just stop him when he was going to work on a Saturday. I had thought there was no work on weekends, but when I asked him that, he would tell me that it was special classes, so I didn't pay much attention to that. When I stopped him, I asked him to try and come back home earlier. There was something that we had to discuss. Luckily, he agreed and didn't make any excuse that he would be busy and whatnot. So I had planned to cook his favorite dish. It was actually our 3rd-year anniversary, but he had forgotten about it. Later that day, he respected my request and came back home earlier. During dinner, we ate over light conversation, but one would see that there was a huge change between us. The conversations were no longer flowing. It was like we were forcing it. As one of us didn't know how to carry on with the conversation, and my heart was so heavy because of his behavior, so I decided to just tell him about the things that he had been doing and how much they were hurting me. But before I told him that, I had reminded him of our 3rd-year anniversary, which took him by surprise. We talked a lot and ironed things out. I had hope that he would change, I thought he would see his mistakes and rectify them. But instead, the man of the house decided to overdo everything that he was doing. Our conversation that we had looked like it had never happened, and everything I had said went from one ear to another ear. I won't lie and say I got used to it because it was sickening and heartbreaking. My conscience would tell me that maybe he was cheating on me or he had found someone else who was better than me. That was why he was no longer coming home often. Marcus was taking the fact that I loved him for granted. He took my love for a ride, and as a good wife that I was, I would understand his behavior. I have understood and tried to come to terms with it and made peace, but it was really hard. It was hard to the point that I would sometimes cry myself to sleep whenever I would think about what was happening in my marriage. Sometimes I would just go to my grandparents' house to cool my head. The tension and everything was too much for me. I was so stressed to the point that I would sometimes skip my classes and stay at home because I wouldn't want my students to see me drowning in sorrow. My eyes would be puffy and my nose red, so imagine how bad I looked. I was grateful for my grandparents because they were very supportive and were with me throughout the whole heartbreaking process. My sister had suggested that she would move in with me for some time, until things got back to normal between my husband and me. Things didn't go the way we had thought. Instead, he came back home regularly, but he would always complain about being tired when I tried to initiate intimacy. Marcus was no longer the man that I had fallen in love with, and it was breaking my heart because I loved him. But I was getting bored of always tolerating the old man's childish behavior. I am also a human being. I am a woman. I have a high intimate drive, but he wasn't paying any attention to any of that. Even when I tried by wearing some sexy number to bring back the spark in our relationship, but it wasn't there. He wasn't there. He was always tired or complaining about having a lot of work to do. He forgot that I have desires, which is something that I had told him when we were still dating, that I have a high sex drive and I loved being intimate with my partner at least 3 or 4 times a week. It's a good thing that I had told him, right? He promised me to always deliver, but he never kept his promise. Few days later, I got tired of begging and negotiating with Marcus about our lovemaking moments. I got lonely. I felt like I was married alone, like I was the one contributing to this marriage while he was enjoying whatever that he was doing. So I decided to transform myself, look good, smell good, and be beautiful like I was before we started dating. I felt like I had forgotten my true being when I got married and became a wife and not the true definition of myself. I began going out, either on solo dates or I would take my sister and go to different clubs to have some fun and let loose. I needed to get my groove back and remember who I am outside married life. In my marriage, I felt like I was the only one putting effort into making it work while my husband, Or must I say my ex-husband was busy with work. I didn't have any problem with him working, but he had to at least try and make time for his wife. Days passed, and I went on a mini solo vacation. I felt like I needed to clear my head and try to forget about the situation in my marital home. I needed a break from Marcus's behavior and focus on myself for once before I lost myself over a man. As I was still enjoying my vacation, I bumped into a very old friend. Well, not a friend, but someone that I used to have fun with back in the days. The guy and I had some sort of an arrangement. I had broken things off when I got into a relationship with Marcus. When I saw the guy, I knew that I would be having some kind of fun that I had been looking for. The guy's name was Mike Mayer, male, 33. Mike was a very handsome guy with some bits of tattoos, which I found super sexy on him as he was a slim-bodied guy with buffed-up arms like those of gym instructors or something. Mike was a very funny guy. He knew how to make a woman bow down to him, and I was one of those ladies. During my vacation, I had asked Mike to visit my hotel room. Not that I wanted him to visit, but I needed his service, and he did help me a lot. Our helping each other kind of relationship with Mike continued. I was enjoying his services, and I think I got somehow hooked on it. It was really addictive, and I was addicted to Mike, no lies. Mike knew how to explore a woman's body and make her beg for more. I had even forgotten that I had a husband waiting for me at home. The way Mike was making me lose my mind, he did everything that I had been begging my husband for and more. I had spent my whole week off at work for the kind of fun and relaxation that I had with Mike. I think I was starting to fall for Mike because I would always call him to check where he was and if he was busy or not. One I loved about Mike was that he understood me and my desires, and he made sure to deliver. One day when I was back from my vacation, Marcus was not at home. Well, it had been 3 days without seeing him or hearing from him, and I had gotten used to it. It was like a norm to him to not be home for some days. Marcus and I were like married strangers that share a bedroom and all other things in the house except for intimation. I loved my husband so much, but what he was doing it like he was trying to prove a point or something. It was like he was spying on me or whatever. During that beautiful sunny morning, I woke up craving for some intimacy, and I needed my husband. So I asked Mike to come over to my house. I was alone, so I thought, why not Mike over? When Mike got inside, I couldn't contain myself, so I just told Mike that we should just get to business. He started by exploring my body so nicely and smooth as usual. Mike's touch was always like a drug to me, and I was enjoying it so bad. Things got out of hand. Our quick, intimate moment went to be the longest and sweet one. It wasn't my intention to do what I did, especially at my marital home, but I was in my desired moment, and I was too lazy to be out of the house. So that's why I had called Mike over. I thought it was going to be one quick round to get my satisfaction, but it ended up being the whole service. As we were still busy, and I was about to reach my Cloud 9 climax, I heard people speaking. I first didn't pay attention to it because the TV was also playing, so I had thought it was TV only to find out that it was Marcus with his friend from work. He looked so spooked and somehow heartbroken, or rather traumatized for what he had come across. As much as I was not feeling any guilt when my thing with Mike kept happening, but when I saw Marcus's face, I felt ping of guilt and regret. I regretted everything that I had done. It was like I had recently regained my consciousness. At first, I had wished to be told that I was dreaming or what was happening wasn't true. But it was, and from there, and then I knew that I had destroyed my marriage. I don't really know why I had invited Mike over to my marital home with my husband, but desires drove me to that decision, and it cost me a lot. I tried hiding my body from Marcus's friend, but it was too late. He had already seen everything, and there was nothing I could have done except for taking the throw that was on the couch and covering myself. Marcus became a statue, so at some moments, I think he was trying to digest what he had seen. After some time, I asked Mike if he should go along with Marcus's friend. I was glad when they complied with my request and went out. I was left with Marcus. Mind you, that time I didn't know what to say nor do. My mind went blank and my tongue got dry. I wanted to tell him that it wasn't what he was thinking, but that would be useless because he had caught me red-handed. On another side, I wanted to apologize and tell him that it will never happen again. But what would I be apologizing for? I didn't know that if I was to apologize to Marcus, I would be apologize at the fact that I got caught, or I would be apologizing at the fact that I had went against my own wedding vows of being loyal and faithful and went outside to destroy that one thing that we had going on, and we had worked so hard to make it where it was. Yes, Marcus was the main reason why I had gone outside our marriage to find satisfaction outside. But that didn't mean I should have listened to my desires and jeopardized my marriage, right? 1 month later, things were still not fine between Marcus and I, but we continued living together. We didn't even talk about what had taken place. When I tried to apologize or even try to explain to him what had really happened, he would dismiss me and go out to only God knew where. I was regretting ever getting it up with Mike again because I had closed the Mike chapter when I started dating Marcus. But on my mini vacation, the guy just showed up and all the desires that I had came back. All I wanted was for Marcus to pay attention to me and take me or treat me as his wife, not his roommate. I needed him next to me. I wanted to feel his touch, his kisses, and intimate moments. I wanted him to notice me just like the old time when we started dating and even before we got married. I missed him. I missed the spark that we had before we got married and during our first years of being married. I wanted my best friend back, but he wasn't there, and Mike was there to step in where Marcus couldn't provide. During that month, he came back home and told me that he had moved on and I should find a place to stay because his new person was going to move in with him, so one had to go. I asked who was the person he wanted to bring into our marital home, and he told me that he would introduce me to her later that day. All I had to do was to cook a nice dinner because she was a special guest. That time I kept thinking about who he would bring into our home and why would he tell me such a thing. My mind was telling that he was doing that to spite me or make me jealous. Sure, I had done him wrong in the worst way possible, but how could he want to introduce his new girlfriend to me while I was still his lawful wife? My heart was torn apart. I found myself going into a very depressing state that I had never thought I would survive. He should have just filed for divorce if he didn't love me anymore instead of hurting me the way he was. I was not sure if I was ready to see his newly found love or a bait to spite me. Later that day, he came back, and I got the best shock of my life. He came in with my sister. Imagine my blood sister. My parents' daughter was actually the girl that Marcus introduced to me as his new lover. I couldn't believe it, you know? I looked at Mercy with the thought that maybe she would explain and maybe tell me that I wasn't what it looked like and there was nothing happening between them, but she didn't say anything. Marcus introduced her and looked like they were genuinely in love with each other. I couldn't believe that my own sister would actually betray me like that. She had broken the girl and sister code that we had made. She went against our grandparents' teachings and fell in love with my so-called husband. I couldn't fathom seeing them all touchy-feely in front of me, so I had left them alone in the dining room. Marcus came into our bedroom and asked if I felt how sweet the revenge was. I couldn't believe the psycho that I had married. I thought he was sane, but no, he was insane. So he made my sister believe that he loved him while he was busy avenging himself on what I had done. Mind you, that time I couldn't even warn my sister about it, because she was head over heels with Marcus. I just decided to just go out of this shame of marriage because nothing good was going to happen if I were to stay. I went back to my grandparents' house, and to say they were disappointed at what I did and how I had destroyed my marriage would be an understatement. But another thing, they got very angry when they learnt that my sister had got into my marriage and fell in love with my husband, while the husband of mine was only using her for revenge. I don't know what to do nor say. Please help me understand what was going on in my marriage. Yes, till today we have not got divorced, but we no longer live together. Another thing I want to do is to save my sister from the heartbreak that Marcus was going to cause her. What should I do? How do I deal with all this without hurting anyone's feelings? I know I am the one who started all this, but now I want to end it. Please advise me, because I am lost in the wild and I need to get out.